is 7 o'clock, October 10th, 2019, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, there are a couple of changes on the agenda. The presentation of the draft revisions to the sign law will not be tonight, but at our next meeting. We will be having an executive session tonight, and I think that's it. With that, can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Made by John Merwin, seconded by
Second.
Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any public comment on agenda items only?
Well, it's not on the agenda any longer, but I was just wondering when the draft sign law is going to be made available for public.
It will, as soon as we get it back from from Warren. He still has some things that he needs to check out on it, and as soon as we get that back, that will be coming up on that.
Can that be made available with red line or change bars so that we can see what's actually changed as opposed to having?
We'll ask him when he gets here. Department and committee reports. We don't have our representative from the police here, so Bob, would you like to go ahead?
The 2008 Skag zero-turn mower needs to be replaced. We have 3 quotes. The least expensive is from Reardon Briggs Lawn and Garden for $8,066.07.
Is there any discussion on that? I think that's what we're going to go with then.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Made by Chris Kennan, seconded by
Second.
John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dave, welcome back.
How are you? Thank you. Hasn't been too long, a couple months.
No, a couple months. Obviously, you're going to be presenting the report tonight.
I am. And I'll point out 3, 6, I think we'll have an extra one. So line number 9 should have had the highlighted, and I did that manually with a highlighter. And number 7 shouldn't have been highlighted, but I didn't want to cut down another tree and do new copies. So I figured I would just explain it. So 7 is highlighted, it shouldn't be highlighted. That was just an issuance of bench warrant.
I think we can figure that out.
And down below, I did put in the 2018 calls, which pretty comparable.
Yeah.
Okay. Things haven't changed too much.
Very good.
I just want to give you this because this is something that's going to be coming up and they may be reaching out to the Millington Police Department, so it's just.
Okay.
I will let you know when we have more info also.
Very good.
Okay?
All right.
Dave, can you or somebody call me tomorrow afternoon? I've got one thing I just want to discuss.
Yes, indeed. I will get in touch with Mr. Veeder tonight, and I usually talk to him at least when I'm working, so I will
Okay.
ask him if he wants me to give you a call, I will, but otherwise I'm sure he will call. Any particular time in the afternoon?
Anytime after 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like
Will
that.
do.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? No questions? No complaints? That's a good thing.
You safe?
Yes, indeed.
Will do.
And I don't know if I'll be coming to any more board meetings this year, but you guys are done, aren't you?
Yes.
No
Shortly.
no campaign signs out there, so on behalf of the police department, I just want to thank you guys for your support and
Thank you for your service.
Dave, it's been a pleasure working with you.
it certainly has. So anyway, my best to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
George, you want more chairs out?
Yeah, I think we're.
Yeah, I think, yes.
Please, Joan. Please. It's nice to come home.
Old habits die hard.
Okay, I think previous to this, everyone received the reports, assessor's report. I don't know if they're... There was no assessor's report, right?
We got the planning zone and building.
We've got planning, zoning, and building,
And dog control. officer.
and dog,
And
yes.
my monthly report.
Right.
Yep. Lisa, do you have anything to report on?
Well, I have in the packets, 2 different postage meters that I wanted the board to review. One has a hand-fed meter, one here, but that's $70.99 a month for 63 months, and then the upgraded model has an automatic feeder sealer, and that's $122.99 a month. We've had the current one that we're using right now, which is a manual feed, one envelope in, one envelope out. We've had that for 3 years, and the lease is up on that. And I would like to be able to upgrade. We have several times a year when we have large mailings go out, tax bills, exemptions.
So I think the
Any discussion?
more inexpensive one would be the better one to get,
The,
least expensive one.
anyone else?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Everyone?
I don't think we really need an automatic feeder. You know, how often do you,
In January, I send out 2,000 tax bills plus receipts through February and March, and then assessor's office sends out about 300 pieces of mail during exemption time, and then checks that go out monthly, and then if there's any certified mailings or whatever. But tax bills would be the busiest time of year for mass mailing to go out.
I'd say go with the less expensive.
The less expensive one?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if after the lease is over in 5 years, we could see where we're at and upgrade then, maybe to the supermodel then. Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Made by John Merwin, seconded by
Second.
Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next is just the announcement of bulk trash day, which has been set for October 19th, and that will be from 8 to 12 in the morning.
At the highway.
It's at the Highway Department, as it always is. Next, we have a resolution to submit a Justice Court Assistance Program, JCAP grant application. There was a study done, and there are several areas that we fall deficient in protection of our judges and for the protection of all other people who come here for court. One of the major things that we're going in for is lighting around the building here. At night, we have especially one female judge who leaves last, and because of the late hour, the darkness, the places where it's possible for someone to hide out, we need better protection. That would be lights on the front, lights on the back, because the sheriffs sometimes bring in prisoners through the back. So we need to set up something there as well. Anything else on that? John, you were there as well?
No, that's primarily what it was, but it was for safety purposes. And
Yes. So, can I have a motion for me to sign the JCAP grant? To go in.
so moved.
Made by Chris Kennan, seconded by
Second.
John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is the appointment of a new member to the Conservation Advisory Council, and I'll let the Personnel Committee announce that.
Yeah, the Personnel Committee met with several candidates, and we're recommending Mary Lynn Caligaris to the Conservation Advisory Committee.
Everyone in favor of making Mary Lynn Caligaris a member of the committee? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Made by John Midwood,
Second.
seconded by Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We still have some time before the public hearing. I'm going to skip around here a little bit on here. Can I have permission for the supervisor to sign the Dutchess County snow removal contract? We have been, actually, we used to do county roads up until a couple of years ago. The county changed their policy on insurance, and we decided that there was not enough coverage there for us to be able to do it. The liability was just too much. There have been discussions with the county since then. There have been some changes to it. We believe that the current policy is better in that regard than what it was previously. And in addition, one of the major changes in this snow contract is that instead of us submitting at the end of the season the hours, the time, the amount of work that we've done, Bob would have to go through, total up all of the hours, do a rather extensive filing of different, to meet their criteria. And what they have changed to is charging or paying us so much per mile.
5,500.
Which is, originally was 5,200. After going through and looking at what we had to do, what the costs were associated with this, I negotiated a price of 5,500 with the county. I didn't feel that the 5,200 was enough per mile for the amount of work that we needed to do. We have 12.6 miles of county road that we do here. So I think with that increase in the amount of pay, with the adjustment to the insurance, I think this is currently a good contract for us. So can I have a motion to sign that contract?
So moved.
Made by John Merwin, seconded by Chris Kennan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We don't really have time to go into too many other things before we do the public meeting on the acceptance of the water district. We've got several other things on here, but there's nothing that is really short enough.
Supervisor report?
Pardon me?
Supervisor report, maybe? Part of that?
13
Well-
and 14. Maybe.
Okay, do that. 13.
I guess 13 and 14. All right, we'll get that out of the way. This is on the presentation of the 2020 tentative budget. And this is the presentation to the board of that budget. And following that is setting the public hearing date for the budget, which will be November 14th at 7:15.
You want the budget officer to come up and present the budget briefly?
If Lorna would, please.
Okay, you all have a copy of the tentative budget in front of you. The Budget Committee worked on this and came up with what we thought was fair. Some notes on it. There's a $20,000 increase to the library. There's a $1,200 increase for our special prosecutor. And there's $9,761 increase in interest on the ban that we took out for the highway garage. There was just a very slight increase in the New York State retirement system and no increase in the workers' comp rates. And a 9% increase in the health insurance, which was a lower increase than any of the other health insurance options that we looked at. There's a 3% increase in salaries and a very small increase in the accountant services, and there was no increase for them last year. So in the end, we are $11,775 over the budget cap. Any questions? Most of you worked on this, so.
I might just say that the $20,000 for the library, it's been a dozen years since the $125,000 amount was set by vote in the town for the library. During that time, inflation, costs, everything else have gone up. The library was going to come to us and ask was actually going to go for a public vote on an additional $50,000. We felt that at this time, with everything else that's going on, that was a little more than we wish to do. So we negotiated with the library and agreed to a $20,000 increase this year and $10,000 increases for the next 3 years after that, bringing it up to their $50,000. One of the reasons why we're a little over the cap here.
That public hearing?
The public hearing will be for November 14th at 7:15. Can I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Made
So
by
moved.
Ralph Fidelli, seconded by John Merwin. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Lauren.
I see that Warren is here. You're suffering from a little jet lag.
A little bit.
Did you learn today?
Huh?
Did you learn today?
last night.
It is 7:20, and I'd like to open the public meeting, the public hearing on acceptance of the Water District Number 1 benefit assessment roll. Do we have any?
Need a motion to open that.
Can I have a motion to open the hearing? Chris Kennan makes the motion.
Second.
John Midwood seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any comments from the public on the benefit assessment roll? I don't know why, we never get very many comments on this. Go ahead, Bill.
It came to my attention a while back that the village was installing an upgraded control system for the water system that drives the district, and that they were intending to connect that system to the internet so that it could be remotely monitored and controlled. When I heard about that, I went to the village and gave a short talk there about the dangers associated with connecting your infrastructure to the internet. And I won't go into detail here unless you want me to, but it's just to say it's not a good idea. I never got any follow-up from them as to whether they were still planning on doing that, or they were going to put any measures into place to ensure security and prevent the sort of hacking which can bring the water system down or potentially destroy the equipment. If the town has any leverage over the village, I would urge you to ensure that they do not connect their controls to the internet, because it is a danger to the community.
We will mention that to them. Of course, as you know, the village is the one that is in control of the water system, so, but we will bring that up. Any other comments? We still have a little time before our next one.
You want to close this public hearing?
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Made by John Midwood, seconded by
Second.
Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I get a motion to accept the water benefit district.
Can I have a motion to accept the water district number 1 benefit assessment roll? Made by Chris Kennan, seconded by John Merwin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We've got a few minutes before the next public hearing. Warren, we have had, as you know, a movie company is looking to do a film here. We currently do not have anything that covers fees or anything else, requirements for companies that are doing that. This is something that we need to think about, because more and more in the area, you see this happening. Perhaps you can give us just a very brief idea of how some of the other towns have handled it.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of adopting one in Hyde Park. And we've put it out for comment. We've gotten some feedback on it. We're going to change some elements of the law. We should have, within a month, I think we'll have the law in final form, and when we have that, I can send that to you. And I drafted that based upon prototypes in other jurisdictions. It is becoming more and more common for filming to occur up in Dutchess County in this area.
We've gotten a lot of requests in Hyde Park. You're going to get more here. We've had some in Rhinebeck also. And it's a good idea to have a local law which regulates that, so that there's a permit requirement. You have to apply. In Hyde Park, we did it to the, provided for the permit to go to the town clerk. And then there are certain criteria for granting them approval. There's a fee that would be involved. You'd have to set a fee. I don't remember. I think we were talking on a fluctuating fee in Hyde Park, but maybe about $1,000, might be more than that, depending on the scope of the filming. And we want insurance coverage. We want indemnification to the town. If they're going to use the police department, which they often have to do because they block off streets, we want them to reimburse the police department for those expenses, and similar types of reviews. It's not a complicated procedure, but I think you should really...
So this affects traffic flow?
It could, depending on the type of filming that they're having. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they want to use the streets or part of the streets. I think the one that...
Skunks Misery Road is a...
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be, but they did talk about barriers. I think
They are going to be shutting down the road.
So we would like to have, certainly for this one, if you're going to approve it without the law in place, which is fine, we're going to want them to go through the police department to regulate that, and they would have to reimburse the police department to do that. So, but even in Hyde Park, we are regulating even on private property. We're going to require them to have a permit, and that's what most of the other municipalities that I've seen have done that. So sometimes it's on public property, sometimes it's on a road, sometimes it's in a park, sometimes just on private property. But I can send you, I want to wait until we finish the law in Hyde Park. I think you'll be okay with it. And it might be a little bit more than you want to do in Northeast, but I have no problem with your approving this. If you want to go ahead and do it, I would want them to pay us a fee. This looks like a fairly substantial operation. It was a number of days. I would recommend a fee between $500 and $1,000 to the town. Can
they assure us, though, that they would not block the road?
They would have to, they would work out with the police.
Skunks Misery Road.
They would work that out with the police department. So they'd have to, I mean, I could do a resolution for you, which would require.
They're going to block the road.
Yeah, they are.
Closed.
How do people get to their houses?
I don't know how formidable the blockage is. Did they indicate they're totally blocking off the road?
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it doesn't say.
They want to coordinate with the police and the highway department for intermittent traffic control.
Yeah, that's the way they normally do that.
And they specify the exact dates and during the time
Right.
period.
They've been through this company's been through this before, I can tell by the complexity of the proposal. But that's nothing we should regulate, but we should require them to get that approval through the police department. If
I
they're
already provided this to the police officers.
Okay.
The village police department.
And I want insurance, $1 million per occurrence, $5 million in total for each occurrence. We usually call it a $1 million, $5 million policy. And the town needs to be named as additional insured on the policy. And I think that's all we need at this point, given the fact that we don't have a local law in place. When did they want to do the shooting? Yes, soon, it's October.
Yeah, they provided us
Yeah.
certificate of
October
liability.
21st.
They've probably already done that. You know,
It says umbrella liability 10 million.
that's fine,
Okay.
more than enough. Yeah, that's more than enough.
Yeah, and they have the location agreement between themselves and the property owner.
Yeah.
And they've spelled out the exact dates.
Yeah, they've done this before. This is not a
They seem very
fly-by-night
organized when they came to talk to
operation.
me.
So I have no problem with you signing it with those requirements. I'd want to see the certificate of insurance, we have that, and confirmation that they've contacted the police department and gotten the okay from the police department. And they would have to reimburse the police department for any overtime or whatever.
On top of a fee to the town.
And I think we should get it's up to you. I recommend
it.
the
I
fee.
think it should be 1,000.
I think so too. I agree.
And you should all ask for parts in the film.
Demand.
So I have no problem with this, but next, hopefully, we won't get another one before we can get a local law passed.
What happens to the people who live on Skunks Misery Road? They decide they're gonna block the road. How do people
I don't think they
get
can,
access?
they can't totally block traffic. The
All
police
right,
won't let
that's what
them
I'm
do that.
concerned about.
Yeah, they won't let them do that. I think the people usually that live near these are so excited about having it that they don't usually complain about it.
Yeah, it says, during a period of intermittent traffic control, we will always let local residents and deliveries go through.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's fine.
That
I mean,
answers
there
my
might be a
concern.
time they're using the road for their cars for filming, and then they might have to tell you, you have to wait.
Yeah. It's not that big of an operation. I mean, it's not like they're filming a major film.
Right,
Well,
what,
they have 80-person crew and 6 cast members.
That's,
Yeah. That's why these should be 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's, you know, my daughter worked on a TV show in New York and then invited us down to see the filming in the city. They blocked off about 7 square blocks of the whole city for the filming of about a half an hour of actual filming on the show. It was amazing, but it's this is fine. So if you want to do a resolution tonight, I can give you the language if you like. And, we'll just do an oral.
Sure.
Okay. So let me just see what I did before. So this would be a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to sign a filming agreement with Three Pines Hill LLC. Whereas Three Pine Hill LLC has requested permission from the town of Northeast to film at various locations within the town in conjunction with, what is the name of the, just fill in the name of the,
the production
I
company
think
is called City Productions Inc. out of Kingston.
yeah.
CITI.
Yeah, it's in, yeah. What's the name of the film? I don't remember. It's in here somewhere. On various dates from, and we would just fill in the dates from October 21st through, I think the last day is November
It's December something.
21st,
November.
and has provided a proposed location agreement which has been reviewed by the attorney to the town and by the town board. And the Three Pines Hill has submitted, is there indemnification language in there? Let's just see. Oh, I think there is. Why don't we say this, that Grace, Three Pines Hill shall agree to indemnify and hold harmless the town from any and all liability which may result from the filming activities, and shall provide a certificate of insurance. Was it $1 million, $1.5 million, or?
It's $2 million, but with a $10 million life umbrella.
That's fine, in that amount.
They just sent me this today.
In that amount. And does it name the town, it shall name the town as additional insured?
Town of Northeast.
Okay. The Three Pine Hill LLC shall make necessary arrangements with the, I guess it's the village, Milton Police Department, for any interference or blocking of public roads as required, and shall indemnify and shall be responsible for payment of all costs involved, including any overtime for the police department. And I think that's all. If you want to vote on that, I'll give you a written one tomorrow.
Yeah, and do we need to put anything about the fee that comes to the
Oh,
town in this
yes.
resolution?
And shall pay a fee in the amount of $1,000 to the
Can I have a motion to? Made by Chris Ken, seconded by
Second.
John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, just remind me tomorrow, I'll be in all day tomorrow, so.
It's actually a little bit late, it's 7:35, but I'd like to resume the public hearing on Community Development Block Grant, CDBG ideas, and authorize the supervisor to sign one for submission. The one that has been presented to us by the village, and that I think we should go in jointly with, is on the renovation of Eddie Collins Memorial Park. What do they call it? Revision? No.
Revitalization.
Revitalization project, yes. This is, we've kicked around different ideas on CDBG, and some of them just don't apply to what the CDBG is looking for this year. However, this one is one that we believe does. It's one that we've kind of committed ourselves to, that we believe it is a good idea for the Eddie Collins Memorial Park. So is there any discussion concerning this?
I had a chance to see at the library annex
Last night.
yesterday
Yeah.
a presentation of the proposed revisions of the park. And it's a really important facility for the community. It has suffered from wear and tear, and obviously from the fact that the pool is no longer usable. So I think it's a really important item for this community, and I support going in with the village on Eddie Collins Field.
Can I have a motion?
We still have a public hearing. You have to close the public hearing.
Sorry about that.
Or ask the public if they have any interest in there.
Yes, are there any comments from the public on this? If not, I'd like to close the public hearing, and can I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Made by
Second.
Ralph Fidelli, seconded by John Merwin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Before we get
I
into,
need a motion for us to accept this
can I have a
project.
motion to accept this project as the one that we're, and for a support letter to be given to the town on this project? Can I have a motion? Chris Kennan and Ralph Fidelli seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next, I'd like to clear up one other thing. We've had fireworks and stuff in different parts of the town. And before most of the people that were putting them on would come to the town and let us know what's going on. So we had some control over what was happening. Recently, we had a fireworks display, and there was no notification to the town. We need to have some regulation as to these fireworks displays. I think we need to start charging a fee for these. And I think that one section of that in doing these fireworks displays is that they notify their neighbors. Because we've had complaints from the neighbors, especially on some of the horse farms, when these displays are being held. They frighten the horses. One horse actually got hurt. And they have asked for prior notification on this.
And the fire department, police department?
The fire department and police department certainly should be notified as well. Any comment? Warren?
Yeah, well, there already is a provision, used to be that there wasn't. Actually, private fireworks were not permitted under the law, even though a lot of municipalities allowed them to happen. But in the past few years, the penal law was amended to provide a provision for permitting for fireworks. So you have to, there is a statute which has been complied with in the past by most people in the town. There's an application process. There are requirements for fire protection that they have to provide. There is mapping that's required to show where the fireworks would occur, where the parking will occur, how safety will be handled. And I don't remember whether we charge a fee for that, but we can probably pass a local law which would incorporate that requirement and charge a local fee for processing, but I'll check that to make sure that's not preempted. But all of those things are covered, including notification. Well, I don't know if there's a notification required for neighbors, but there is. You cannot have fireworks within 500 feet of a horse farm, and so those would not be permitted because they a thoroughbred horse farm. They tend to scare the horses and cause damage. But we can add a requirement, unless again we're preempted. I'll check the statute. That all neighbors be notified, and so I'll try to do that by next month and see what. So I wouldn't rewrite the law. I would just incorporate that law and then add some things to it for the town. And but I think we've had in the past compliance by most people.
It was somebody different.
Just people who don't know that
Right.
there's that.
Yeah,
No,
this was somebody else who hadn't done one.
The company they hired was in the wrong town. They thought that this property was located in Stanford.
Right, usually
They sent stuff to Stanford.
they don't do them themselves, they hire these, and the companies are very familiar with the process,
Yes.
and they come in and we've rarely in other municipalities had problems with that, so, but I'll get that for you.
Next thing, since I don't want to hold Warren up here for too long.
Before I fall asleep.
We do have one item that needs to be discussed in executive session.
We do.
And it involves some insurance with a contract that we're currently working on. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Well, should we take care of the,
Unless you have some other stuff.
well, I just want to make sure we take, did we pass the resolution for the co-lead agency for?
No.
Okay, all right, so let's do that before we go, because that we do.
Okay.
So I did prepare a resolution for the town board to declare the town and the village as co-lead agencies for the environmental review of the comprehensive plan, because it's a joint comprehensive plan. We did ask Nan Stolzenberg to prepare a full environmental assessment form, part 1, which I've sent to Lisa, and she has it. I've reviewed it. It's a good job. There's really not a lot of, there's no site-specific information that's required for a comprehensive plan, so most of the part 1 is really not applicable to what we're doing, but Nan has added a very extensive supplement to the part 1, which explains the comprehensive plan and the benefits and what we're doing, which I think is an excellent idea. So if we can adopt the resolution adopting the part 1 that Nan has prepared for us, I guess we prematurely sent it down to Dutchess County.
Yes.
So, because you have to send the part 1, but they had some comments. It's my understanding that you're going to be working on addressing those comments.
Yes.
So if you wanted to do, and I agree, we'll pass the resolution tonight. When the comprehensive plan is revised to address the comments of the plan, of the Dutchess County Planning, then the revised comprehensive plan together with the Part 1 of the EAF will then be sent to the county.
And the county has requested that the second appendix, the reference appendix that Bill Kish is working on.
So you're working on that too. So everything will be,
In the next
be
10
addressed.
days.
Okay, I may want to make one tweak to this. Let me just see this. I'm just going to add some language to the resolution that town board authorizes referral of the draft joint comprehensive plan as amended. This would be in the last wherefore, in response to comments already received from Dutchess County Planning. So I'll read, if you could vote on that, and I'll give you the revised one tomorrow, and then we're all set.
Can I have a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Made by John Midwood, seconded
Second.
by Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
And you have to sign, there's a page on the form that you have to sign for the Part 1, so the signed copy needs to go down the
I have
county.
a regal in my office.
So we're all set, right?
Does it include a negative declaration? Is it a neg deck?
No, we can't do that yet. This is only Part 1.
Oh,
So the next step, so we understand. I'd like to, we're going to need to schedule another public hearing. If you want to try to shoot for it for November, do you think that's ambitious? And we may be able to do we would do the neg deck, assuming that you decide to neg deck it, on that night after the close of the public hearing. And then I'll have prepared a resolution adopting the comprehensive plan. And so there'll be one additional, I'm just worried about, we have some amendments to the, when do you think that's going to be ready?
I think by the end of next week.
Okay.
It's a short week, but I think.
Okay. So why don't we, in addition to this, why don't we schedule a public hearing for when is the next town board meeting in November?
Until the 14th, I believe.
Okay. Okay, well, it may be overly ambitious, but we'll shoot for that. At least we can have the public hearing on that night. So we'll have additionally a resolution from the board, which I'll give to you in writing, scheduling the public hearing on the comprehensive plan as amended for November 14th, 2019, and for the determination of the seeker review on that same night, hopefully. And then when that's ready, we're going to have to publish notice of the public hearing. I'll prepare that for you. But the amended comprehensive plan needs to be put on our website so the public can see it, and a copy's got to be made available at your clerk's office,
I'm
okay?
going to call it the October draft.
Okay.
Okay.
What time do we want this public hearing on November 14th?
Got the one at 7:15, so 7:25?
Okay. And for some reason we can't make it on that night, we'll just do it for December.
Can I get a motion for that?
Made by John Merwin, seconded by
Second.
John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll try to make this executive session as quick as possible. I know we have quite a few people waiting. I would like to get Warren out of here. I know he's tired. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
What is the motion?
To go into executive session to discuss, as I said before, insurance currently being contemplated in negotiations.
Is this for an insurance payout or an insurance?
No,
For the
a policy,
EMS.
a policy, but, pardon me?
And this for the emergency services.
for emergency services.
I
Can I-
have Ralph made a
Aye.
second. And then who's gonna second the motion?
I'll second.
All right, and then I need to do a roll call.
Yeah.
George?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ralph?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
All set.
You have to switch it.
Can I have a motion to come back into session?
So moved.
Made by Ralph Fidelli, seconded by
I'll second.
Chris Kennan.
No,
Um,
all right.
Let's not argue now. Seconded by Chris Kennan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Missed the cheat codes, Chris.
The next on the agenda is the American Legion has requested time to speak to the town board concerning the sign issue. I know we have a great many people here from the American Legion. I would hope that we don't get into a process, I don't know how many people want to speak, but repeating each other, I would just, if something is said once, we get it on the first time, rather than repeating it several different times. So with that, I'm not sure who is the spokesman or first on the agenda, but
Yeah, you're the short straw, George.
lucky you.
Yeah, it depends on how you define luck. So, all right, well, for all those who don't know me, I'm Sean Clay. I'm currently the post adjutant for the American Legion here in town. So George, I take it I have the floor for the moment, don't I?
You have the floor.
Okay, all right. All right, so first off, let's just talk about the big elephant in the room, all right? So a year ago, after much discussion, planning, and thought process on our part, us being the Legion, we put that nifty little sign out front. Now, all right, we have since learned that we were erred, all right? This was not intentional on our part, all right? Just want to put that right out front. But as with anything, I think a proper context of our discussions and where we were going when we did what we did, I think is in order here. So this way everybody can be at least informed appropriately, as opposed to rumor and hearsay.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I can't talk. All right, so I'll speak up, ma'am, sorry.
Thank you.
So a number of years ago, and Bob and John, you might be able to help me remember, because I have trouble remembering what I did yesterday half the time. There was a series of meetings, as I recall, down in Amelia with the Red Cross, and a lot of these discussions centered around emergency shelters, emergency management, so on and so forth, okay? One of the talking points that came up out of that meeting, or those series of meetings, was how does any community help communicate messages of emergency notification or of emergency nature to the public at large. At that point, one of the suggestions became, well, what about the municipality investing in one of those emergency road signs? Okay. in order to help put that sort of information out that may be of an immediate local nature or of a broader nature to the question. Correct me if I'm wrong, I understand the discussion got batted around, it was just like, okay, too much money, we're not gonna go that way. So, that's where we came in. And it came up over the course of a number of Legion meetings, well, what can we do to help the community? And so, at about that same time, we found out through our fellow Legionnaires, that the post in Hudson was closing down their operations there, decided to sell off the property, downsize, and they were gonna sell the sign. So we said, all right, well, why don't we snag the sign while we can, and then we can figure out how we wanna do what we wanna do. So that's what we did. So that's kind of how we got to the thought process of, okay, now how do we go about this? What can we do with our sign? And, you know, in the past, the post has been used as an emergency shelter, i.e. cold or hot weather type stuff. And, you know, a lot of people find out about it after the fact. Oh, I didn't know you guys did that. All right, so, you know, again, how do we communicate these things to the public at large? Power goes out, generally your cell phones are toast, all right? And as, for those of you who were around or remember, way back in the day, actually, I kind of thought I actually might have caused it, was that great power outage back in 2003. Another story for another time. But it's no joke, by the way. You know, the first thing that went was everybody's cell phones, for those of you who remember that, okay? So again, how do you communicate stuff when social media goes down, when the internet goes down, when cell phone service goes down, okay? And one of your other big problems is gonna be the next time you have a big issue is what do most of us now have is TCP over IP, or no, however you phrase that now, excuse me. That power goes out, your landlines are toast now too, okay? Unless they're on emergency backups, and that's only gonna last for so long, all right? So again, how do you, when everything goes to heck in a handbasket, okay, how do you push out notifications to the community? So again, that's where our mindset was coming from, all right? Things like Amber Alerts was things we brought up. BOLOs, quick aside here, a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago now, for those of you who recall, there was an escaped convict across the border in Massachusetts, got away from the sheriff up there, and they put out a BOLO. There was some possibility that the good gentleman was hanging out in our neck of the woods. Turned out that that was not the case, but it so happened that the state police did knock on the Legion's door and said, hey, listen, we're possibly interested in using your facility as a command post, which we're like, have at it. And they're like, well, does the sign work? We're like, yeah, it works, but, you know, we're having a little discussion with the town about it. And we're like, well, you know, we may want to be able to use that to help put out that information, okay? And for those of you who followed that issue, there was a lot of hearsay going around, a lot of confusion as to what the ground truth was, and it turned out, thankfully, that the gentleman was not around here. But again, that was one of the points. Things like storm warnings and road closures were also discussed on part of that, okay? And then also other potential community PSAs, you know, were discussed. And, you know, things from that would be of a veteran perspective, things like half-flag announcements, which actually the governor's office just kicked one of those out again today. As well as, you know, when we have local KIAs, for instance, for those of you who do remember when Shannon Kent, who I went to high school with, passed back in January, we had her notification up on the board. And as a quick aside, that was noticed by her family, and her family did express the fact that, you know, they were actually very disappointed that Pine Plains didn't do more. And here she comes dropping off her stuff at the dry cleaners, and she sees her daughter's name up on the sign. You know, so little things like that, just little gestures like that do have resonance with our community at large, both immediately and extended. As well as any other potential PSAs that may be of a municipal nature. okay? So not only is our intent to help ourselves, our intent is to help our community at large, whether it be the town, the village, or potentially even other nonprofits, okay? Which kind of brings me to my next segue, is that one of the side discussions that we had with regarding our sign is that whether people want to admit to it or not, economics locally are changing. And in some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad. From our perspective as a Legion, we're looking at 10, 15 years down the road. And I can probably make a prediction right now that the vast majority of other Legion posts in this county are going to be closed. Okay? We do not want to be one of those posts, okay? And again, we were looking at also as a financial investment in our future as well, as to how do we help ourselves, all right? Manpower is not what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. A lot of our guys are getting up there in age, they're not necessarily able to help out. So how do we leverage modern technology, regardless of its form, to help ourselves out, okay? And, we have learned in the past, through past experience, that even when we had our older sign, that it does get noticed and it does have an impact. And, we thought, okay, our infrastructure is getting older. For those of you who have been around the post, you will notice that, we have been making a lot of capital improvements, per se, into the post. Yep, sorry.
What are you moving? I'm afraid you're gonna be on my lap.
And we've got actually a long way to go to, before we're done making some of those capital improvements. This is, again, one of those investments into that to make the post and even that much more of a community asset than I would go out on a limb and assume that hopefully everybody in this room would agree with that. So that's where we as a post were coming from, okay? As I stated when I started, okay, we recognized an error. Okay, I'm doing the mea culpa, okay? All right. But we would like to ask the town board to take our request here for making any appropriate accommodations into the proposed sign law when you guys finally get around to discussing that, to not only just help us, but help our community. All right, and that's the point I really want everybody to come away from, is that yes, it's us who did it. Yes, it's us who basically paid for it and installed it and everything else. But we don't want this just to be seen as a Legion asset. We would like to have it seen as a community asset. It is from that perspective that I and the Legion are asking you for your consideration in this matter. Bear with me. I'm not as young as I used to be, and I don't remember everything as much as I'd like to remember everything anymore. To that end, I think I'll just throw it out there on the floor for consideration. We're more than happy to work with anyone and everyone to come to a mutual accommodation. Perhaps things like hours of operation, such so on and so forth, could be thrown on the table there. I heard expressed from some folks in the community, the brightness factor. Well, we can use different colors and things like that. So this way it may not, minimize its potential distraction to drivers going by the post. We do recognize the fact that we are on one of the main arteries into our community. And so while it is a asset, a plus there, can understand the concern. So there's things that can be done with the sign that could help mitigate those concerns. It should have been our attorney here tonight, but unfortunately he had a conflict, so couldn't present, and I drew the short straw. So pending your questions.
Well, I would assume then, Sean, that at some point your attorney can talk to us?
Yes, yeah, like I said, unfortunately he had a conflict tonight, couldn't make it. And like I said, I drew the short straw.
Okay, well, I think you did a nice job.
I might say that one thing that I'm not sure that you really covered, that the town has used the Legion in the past as a cooling and warming center.
Yeah,
No, I did mention that, hot and cold shelter, yep.
right.
Yep. And, you know, we even, I think at one point there, when we had the flooding down on, whatchamacallit road there, by the rail trail, you know, we did get used for, you know, so I mean, again, you know, we are a community asset. We want to enhance our ability to be a community asset. While it's not necessarily directly one of the four pillars of the Legion, it is an implied pillar
Right.
of the Legion to, you know, to be an asset for our community and our town, you know. And, you know, as we draw membership from all over the tri-state, you know, we, not just here, but, you know, in other communities, you know, we end up being quite a significant asset to those folks as well,
Right.
you know, at times, so.
And we have opened it in the past as an actual physical shelter.
Yes.
If you recall, the time we were out 7-8 days of power, people didn't realize that that was the shelter until the word finally got out. And probably by 4th or 5th day, we were having 20 people a day there during the daytime, and about a half dozen stayed overnight. We got cops in them to let them stay overnight.
So it's about the only facility well, it is the only facility in
Yeah.
town
Well,
that can accommodate.
well, to that end, John, you know,
Actually, I've sat over there.
Yes, I remember a few
Yeah.
times, yeah.
you know, we do have an emergency generator. So again, you know, when power goes out and everything hits the fan, you know, our generator, you know, the moment the power trips, that generator kicks on. Again, that's something that we pay for. We maintain out of our budget on a yearly basis and have that serviced. That sign will still work, you know. So again, you know, it's a simple, you know, whether we have to go to semaphore flags, smoke signals, or, you know, Morse code, you know, we can fire up the computer and do what we need to do to, you know, put the appropriate messaging on that sign, you know, again, to, you know, like to say most of the time we're just a phone call away, but, you know, we can make something happen, you know, if, you know,
Exactly.
the town needs us, or the village for that matter, needs us to make something happen.
Well, I think the board needs time to deliberate on what you.
No,
What
understood.
you said this evening. We certainly won't be making any decision this evening,
I assume that.
but we will look into it, discuss it, and hopefully next meeting possibly be able to render it.
Could you have your attorney, you know, speak to
Yeah.
Warren?
Yeah, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, our attorney can be here next meeting.
Okay.
He is tracking that date, so.
Okay.
You know, and in the meantime, if, you know, you need to talk to any of us, of course, any of us are available, you know, at your request.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Presentation.
I tried. I'm sure I'll get critiqued on my delivery after.
Okay.
Was there anybody else from the group that wished to say anything?
I just don't understand, can someone, because I don't know the law or whatever, George, could you explain what the issue is in terms of what does the town say can't be with signs, and why?
The basic issue right now is, well, first of all, the sign, when it was put up, unfortunately, the American Legion failed to get a permit to put it up. But the real issue here was that under our sign laws, LED signs are not a permitted use. So for that reason, it was shut down.
And why aren't LED signs permitted?
Because in the process of determining signs in the sign law, the previous sign law, that was one that they decided, that the town board decided that they did not wish to get involved with. So that's where we are now. Yes?
A
question for you. Thanks for presenting. Does the sign work on electricity? Or is it solar? Or because you were saying when the power goes down, that's a...
So we have a generator.
You have a generator?
Yeah,
okay.
we have an on-site generator that we've had for perhaps longer than I've been alive at this point. But it's just as good as the day
It's newer
is.
than that. When it goes down, it automatically goes up. So it's the only building in the entire community that has that capacity.
I mean, I think you raised a good question in general about communication.
Yeah.
You know, whether it happens to be the sign or whatever, that is definitely a challenge for the area. I agree with you completely, but whether it should look like Las Vegas or be a little bit more subtle, I guess that's...
Yeah, again, that all comes down to how we can employ that sign. You know, and there's all sorts of, you know, we have no intention of making it look like the Las Vegas Strip. That definitely takes away from the character of the community, and that is not our intent. You know, at the end of the day, our intent is to be able to communicate to the community at large, you know, whether it's for ourselves, another nonprofit, or on behalf of any of the municipalities, you know, or any of the state agencies that may request us. Hence why I mentioned the state police of asking us a couple months ago.
And we have pictures of the hideous old signs that were there.
I was
And they
just
were
going
bad.
to touch on that. I am actually generally, or formerly, anti-LED signs, and then you guys put your sign up and it was much more attractive than the one you had that only told that party.
Thank you.
Well, there were, you know, all I knew about the American Legion then was that I could throw a party there for $350 and like there were plant-based. Now I know that you're a warming and cooling shelter, and like that's actually something in my profession I use, like when it's too hot, too cold, the power might go out. We're able to direct people to you guys, so I think it's been a really great asset already. You converted me.
What happens if you allow the sign to stay up with regard to other places in town that might want to put up this LED sign? I don't know what else might not be
Well,
allowed.
that's what
That's the
the
problem.
town needs to decide. What is an allowable type of sign? Under what circumstances a sign would be allowed, if any. And that's what the board has to deliberate on. Yes.
I'd just like to say I happened to notice the flashing LED lights around the vape shop window, which were far brighter and more distracting, you know, and I guess that's not regulated under a sign law, so I thought that was just sort of interesting.
Yes.
Can I just get, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you trumped me, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to get quick clarification. How does the gas stations fit?
That's a federal law that allows that. It has nothing to do with the town. You know, it's mandated.
We passed that in our last sign ordinance.
Yeah.
That we updated the last sign law, the convenience store was included in that change.
I know the fire department has a sign, and well, to that note, it's the Legion, although it's a private organization, it is a public service organization, like the fire department, police department, you know, the town, municipality perhaps, but, you know, it's not a commercial business, should we say, so it's not gonna be a used car lot. It is somehow maybe in the law, there could be something for, you know, an organization, a nonprofit organization for the benefit of community service. I don't know how you work that out in the fine print, but certainly the fire department has one. It would be a crime not to allow the Legion to have this sign for specifically in emergency purposes. So in the day and age in which we live, you need to be able to get the word out and get it out quickly. It certainly seems to be a very quick and effective way to do that, and it's, yes, way better than what was there before, and you don't have to get somebody out there to change all the little letters. I've done that. So it's instantaneous, so it really is an asset to the town. It's not like a used car lot.
Exactly.
I don't disagree with your characterization of the Legion and stuff, it certainly is. The only thing I would say is that the sign over here on the fire department is village. That has nothing to do with us. and that is still an unsettled sign.
But I don't think this sign for the American Legion isn't like interfering with anybody's privacy, or it's not blinking somebody's front window, and it's not bothering anybody, I don't think, except for it's, you know, maybe a little distracting to a driver once in a while, but it doesn't seem that it's bothering the neighbors at all. The neighbors are all closed up at night.
Anybody else? Any comments?
Is the intention that the sign is always on?
But yeah,
That's open for discussion.
Yeah, it's open for discussion.
Willing to work with the town on it, we told them that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've kind of batted that around ourselves.
You said that was negotiable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's totally up for negotiation, you know, and again, you know, I mean, that's, you know, in keeping, I think, with, you know, the nature of our community, and, you know, we all have impacts on each other. We don't want to be a net negative, we want to be a net positive, you know, so again, that's open for discussion.
You know, what the quandary that I have is we have to find a way that can allow something like this to happen. And yet, when you say something is a law, then are you talking about, how do you prevent someone else in the Boulevard District to decide they're gonna put up a sign too? Once it is allowed, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be allowed, but we've got to find a logical reason to do this, because it makes sense. But how do we as a legislator pick and choose what's right?
Public safety.
Well, I mean,
That we have to find that parameter then,
Right.
that says, because of public safety, we can allow it, and then we can't allow a supermarket next door to put up a big sign. I mean, as long as, you know, I keep thinking about our comprehensive plan too, and how the comprehensive plan says, you know, we value our environment, our rural environment. And this is why we want to live here, because we love it the way it is. And we don't want to change it and have it look like Las Vegas. So, and it's not going to look like Las Vegas, but I'm just saying this is part of the quandary that we have. How do you pick and choose? And maybe to come up with certain stipulations that say there are certain restrictions. Maybe the brightness of the has to be determined. Maybe you can't have moving words.
Yep.
You know, but parameters that make it acceptable because it meets the need of public shelter, emergency communication, so it's in the public service, but it's not advertising. That's something that we gotta think about.
I mean, I like to think that there's enough smart people in this room that we can all kind of probably come up with something that would be mutually amicable to everybody around. Right? And, you know, again, you know, I think, you know, there's a lot of good things that the library, for instance, does for the community. You know, I mean, there's all sorts of good things that are happening around that, I'll be honest, you know, despite the fact that I read the paper, and I'll be admit, I'm one of those, you know, I hate to say that I am a millennial, but according to the definition I am, you know, I've got my smartphone, but it's amazing what you don't hear on that. Things that happen locally that I genuinely usually find out about after the fact, and I'm like, you know what, that would have been pretty cool, you know, that someone else was doing that was, you know, again, benefits to the community. So I mean, you know, again, you know, looking at it as a community asset is, I think, you know, something worth to consider.
Well, I think these are all things that we need to consider here. We're not going to get into an answer this evening, so.
No, understood.
Bill?
I've got a question for Warren. Would it be constitutional, legal for the town to be able to say to, or, you know, assuming that this dialogue happens and the town and the Legion can come together and you know, make decisions about what sort of messaging is appropriate and allowed, is that even legal? Can the town direct the Legion to allow certain types of language but prohibit others?
Do you want me to respond to that? That is a problem. There's been a recent Supreme Court decision that has really created quite a quandary for municipalities and sign laws, that all sign laws have to be content neutral, otherwise they're discriminatory, which makes it very difficult to allow certain signs for one use and prohibit it for another use. So that's going to be the biggest issue that we have to grapple with. So you're right, there is that problem.
Was that religious-based?
It is. It's not religious-based. It's that you can't discriminate on the basis of content. So when you start allowing it for one use and not for another use, Supreme Court's determined that that's discrimination, and it's a very hard decision to grapple with. We do have the committee that's worked on the revisions to the sign law in light of that. If you want, I'll contact the committee and see if they thought about that issue and how they might want to treat it under the revisions to the sign law, get some input from the committee that's working on it. They're fully apprised of that issue, so I can do that.
And who sits on that committee?
I don't know. Jon Onerson is the chairman, but I don't know who else.
I'm on it.
I guess
Ralph is on it, Julie is on it.
Everybody here is on it.
Greg Osowski's on it. Rance Middlebrook.
Yeah, I don't know whether they'll have any answers for us, but it's been a very difficult decision for us to grapple with in terms of.
So does that committee go to the community at large and ask for input?
That committee is just advisory. The town board makes the ultimate decision.
Okay.
It's just that, but they've been working on looking at our sign law, our current sign law, to see if it's revisions have to be made to make sure that it's constitutional. So I don't know whether they've thought about this issue at all. I'll contact them and find out.
Are there any other comments? If not, I guess this isn't a public hearing, so
Nothing we can do.
we're just making comments. We appreciate very much your attendance here and filling us in on your position. And we certainly will have to take a look at the decision.
You said I'm a phone call away.
I'm going to take off too. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There may not be enough smart people in the room. We're gonna need a
I'm pretty sure there's a lot more smart people than me, so.
do better. You're a historian. Take care.
We've got the minutes. We can do that while people are leaving. The minutes. Unfortunately, I don't have my minutes with me.
I looked at the first one, and I didn't see any issue, which was the one,
August 8th or September 12th?
First of all, minutes, August 8th. Do we have any comments, any corrections?
None. I had none.
The only thing I saw in there is council. And it was when, council, meeting with council.
Okay, I'll
It's a
change the
spelling
spelling.
thing. You can see that I did read your email.
No, I know you read it because you said something about my report last month.
With that correction, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 8th? Made by John Merwin, seconded by Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is the minutes for September 12th. Do we have any revisions, corrections, comments? If not, can I have a motion to accept the minutes for September 12th?
So moved.
Made by Chris Kennan, seconded by John Midwood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For this month, for this resolution, I just the date. that it's-
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
Thank you. I just used the old one.
Yeah.
Next is the supervisor's report, and we do have a budget adjustment, number 6 for 2019. A fund. We have an expense increase of $11,388, less a revenue increase of $11,388. And that is the only budget increase adjustment for the month. Can I have a motion to accept that budget adjustment?
So moved.
Made by Ralph Fidelli, seconded by
I'll second.
John Merwin. All in favor?
Aye.
We have a special abstract dated September 24th, 2019, totaling $400.49, broken down as follows. A fund, $245.74. Payroll, T&A, $154.75. Can I have a motion to accept the special abstract?
So moved.
Made by Chris Kennan, seconded by
Second.
Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Isn't that supposed to be passed along? Isn't that the,
Was there something to sign that we haven't signed?
No,
No, there's no?
no, it's coming now.
oh,
Here it comes.
we already had one
This is the
before.
first one.
No, it's a budget adjustment.
Next, we have an abstract dated October 10th, 2019, totaling $323,118.21, broken down as follows. A fund, $57,777.98. B fund, $27,680.14. DD fund, $108,685.77. Capital projects H1, $127,513.20. TNA 2 escrow, $1,106.20. Can I have a motion to accept the abstract?
So moved.
Made by Chris Kennan, seconded by
Second.
Ralph Fidelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The voucher committee for November, John Merwin and Ralph Fidelli.
Got it down.
Now, what have I forgotten?
We need to move on to general comment.
As long as we've covered everything in here, and I think we have. Okay, do we have any comments? Yes.
Ms. Smith. I'm Meg Winkler, and myself and my husband Michael Winkler and Daniel Goldhagen wrote a letter to the board about a speed study on Winchell Mountain Road requested in June. Daniel was here for July. It was approved by motion to look into a speed study. And then the next thing I heard about it was from the Mellerton News article in September. And then in reading the statement back brought me here tonight because I really wanted to understand more the mindset of the town surrounding this issue. And George, your statement is, we're in a predicament now of having our engineer look into the cost of a speed study and whether it's worth it, realizing the state rejects 80%. And we're looking into other options to see if anything else might be done. So I just wanted to understand, what is the predicament? What is the expense, thinking something's worth it? Is it worth it for people to get killed, for the town to be sued now that you've been put on public notice that we have an extremely dangerous road? We have semis going down at 60, 70 miles an hour on a road that has only advisory speed limits of 30 and 35. I was misquoted in the paper to say that sometimes I open my window. I have to open my window to listen to plow my driveway anytime during the sunshine, during the day. We had an 18-wheeler stuck on Irondale last Friday trying to turn onto Winchell Mountain Road. We have more traffic now in the 3 years I've lived there than 22. And what perplexes me is that the statement about, is a speed study worth it? You did one for the other parts of the town, and I think that included Sharon Road, and then Boston Corners, and then part by the village. There are speed limit signs there. So I don't know what the purpose of that is, because the police enforce very strictly people going over 30 miles an hour in the village, or, you know, they can stop people, but on Winchell Mountain Road, it's subjective. And no one is sitting there giving tickets to check if people are even going over 55. So we're all being put at risk. And one other thing, we talked about the comprehensive plan, having pedestrian plan, Eddie Collins Field, now having a garage down the street from where we live. This is only going to get more used of an area. We have bike riders, we have people walking outside of that village. They just don't stop at the sidewalk where the village line is in the town. People do continue to walk up 22 to Winchell Mountain Road. So I'd like to know, like, how do us residents get, that gentleman just talked about communication. How do you communicate to us other than through the Millerton News?
They came to us and asked for a comment on it. That's why the comment was made. What actually used to happen was that we would turn in speed studies to the county, and the county was the one who conducted the speed studies. The county has said that it's so expensive to do them, and that since 80% of what they were doing was turned down by the state, because the state is the final organization that decides whether an actual speed limit will be changed or not. That they were turning it over to the town. Once again, this is a instance of the town being the bottom rung on the totem pole here. That we are the ones who are faced with the with the problem of how to finance, all of these studies, which in the past we haven't had to do. The major issue is, I think, that even though these studies are really done, the state, in most instances, tends to reject them.
But don't you think many are nuisance suits too? I mean, nuisance requests, that people don't like people going through their neighborhood at 30 miles an hour?
And that may be.
Yeah.
But, and this is one of the reasons I want to talk to the police tomorrow.
Okay.
First of all, we need to know how many accidents have occurred on that road, because that's going to be a major question that New York State is going to ask right away. Very honestly, if there are not very many accidents that haven't, if there hasn't been much, then they're not going to approve it. So we need to do a little bit of investigation on our part as well to see. I know that I have heard from our engineer, and that a study up on that road would be at a minimum $3,000.
You think that's a lot of money?
It is when you consider that there are several other people that, would probably want to do the same thing to get,
I don't agree with you. I think a life is worth a lot more than that.
I understand what you're saying.
And if
I understand
our
what you're
cars
saying.
got hit, our car would be worth $25,000 to $30,000. And we've had many near misses. So I've had people swerve around me going in an oncoming lane of traffic. Was there a collision? No, but there was pretty darn close. So I'm just saying $3,000 to me as an individual
But
is not a lot of money.
what I'm saying is.
I mean, if you need a bake sale or if you need us as residents to come up with $3,000, I think we can do it.
What I'm saying is that in the long run, is this going to be something that stands a good chance of coming to fruition or not? And the state possibly will say no because there hasn't, a truck pulling up on Irondale Road and then trying to make the turn onto Winchell Mountain is not an accident. And that is something that, and it's happened
I
many,
understand that.
many,
I'm just
many
saying,
times
where
in
I
the
live on
past.
that bend with trucks, if
Yep.
you go 30, the advisory is you come down the hill and you coast.
Well-
You're at 65. I've done it myself to see. You're at 65 by the time you get to my driveway. So I'm just saying, I like to gamble on the 20% to be accepted, and that's all I'm asking. And I think
We'll
by
have to-
saying.
We'll have to consider it, but what I also would like to do up on there, I noticed that in the letter that was sent, there was also a reference to a hidden drive sign.
Well, actually, when I called the county 2 years ago about this, they wanted to look at that, but they certainly thought we had a case because they said no one should ever have to open their windows to listen to pull out without maybe
Well, I
getting
think
hit.
it will make
So,
more sense if we go to the county.
Yeah, go,
and
well,
say.
yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I think anything you guys can do to help us as town residents would really be appreciated because it will get worse over time too. And we will try, we talked about a little bit about maybe requesting GPS not to bring people down that road as much. Maybe that's something as a town we can reach out to Waze and Google Maps or something to try to avert that.
As
But-
far as trucks go, that might be something that we might be able to do.
Yeah,
I don't know.
so just as it's just really getting very serious, and that's why I'm here tonight, to just pop it up a little bit more, please. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
thank you. Anybody else, any comments?
Did you cover points 11 and 12?
Yes.
All right.
Yep. If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Made by John Midwood, seconded by Chris Kennett. All in favor?
Aye.